What is up, YouTube? Welcome back to Wrenching Wrecked. I think the last video was a quick little update on this. I'm losing track. I've been out here messing around on stuff and then not messing around on stuff and just kind of waiting. So I think the last one was the quick little update on this dealio. So we did the sissy bar, got that all done and locked in. It's not perfect. It's very, very far from perfect. I just went through a bunch of parts that I had sitting on the shelf. Freshly coated sissy bar. We'll do some nice stainless head hardware down here at some point, maybe, or we won't. I don't really know. And then I used the stock style, that style sissy bar clamps on the lower pad that I ordered an extra of from V-Twin last order. And then this is kind of where we left off. So I cut the wires off here. We need to extend the wires for the bars anyway. This is the wiring harness that we need. The new one that I got, like I said, they are substantially cheaper. I think 20 bucks. Let's see if I can yank one of these out without dropping stuff. Let's see here. Which side are you? Okay, here's the throttle side. So, stock wiring got me from here to here. And I was at the day job today and it was dead. So I actually had some time. Resoldered all the connections and made a gigantic 4-foot stretch. So we can go from moped to Evo right now with the wires. It's way too much. That's excessive. I'm well aware of that fact. We're gonna have to trim down the other half quite a bit. But I think what I'm gonna do, I'll throw you guys on the tripod. I'm just gonna put the bolts in for the control and run this. We have a ton of wires now. I think I'm gonna run them a little on the long side. I'm not going for nice, clean, perfect, because I don't know if I'm even keeping this bar set up or if I wanna do something taller and stupider or whatever that may be. So these are soldered on the joints underneath, extended the sheathing from the new wiring kit up, taped that on. Not a lot of heat shrink here, a little bit of heat shrink on the solder connectors. I didn't film any of it. It was just literally like just a regular solder iron. Look up how to solder wires if you're intrigued in that. I didn't show it, it's boring, and I was at work today, so it was kind of a win-win when I got those made up. So those are good. I'm gonna throw the controls on and then we're gonna kind of lay these wires out. The final soldering might make a little bit of the video because I left these long enough to resolder down underneath the tank. And even if we gotta loop it or get creative down here, it'll give me a couple more options down the line. The only problem is, not even a problem, but I would much rather resolder wires that are color coded like this than completely repin out a control plug. The pin out's not that bad. Do it one at a time. Again, this side connector has to match the connector on this side. It's not hard to figure out. It's not hard to unpin them and pull them out and fix that. However, I don't know why. I've done it several times, but I don't like trying to unpin these and then reconnect them. If I can avoid it, I would much rather take the longer length of wire and resolder connections. It's probably slower doing it that way than repinning them, but that's just my personal thing. I have no explanation or no reason for it, but what I was getting at before I got sidetracked, connectors here, we have enough pigtails here to resolder these joints, heat shrink them, and then put the sheathing over that. So these will all connect back into the factory location. If I put the connector on first and resolder this to that wire, I don't think this, well, let's find out actually. I've never actually checked. I don't think that this connector is going to fit through there. Let me go to the other side. This one's got the headlights mocked up. And for whoever was asking me about dig through the bag. Where's my connector? Come on. Uh-oh. Where did I put my pigtail? All right, we're gonna look for that. I don't think the connectors are gonna fit through the hole in the wide glide front end. So that's kind of where we're at. This is the one for the left side housing, which I like this design. I like that everything's just kind of pin out terminal right in between the frame. So I don't know how much is going to make it into the next video or two. I'm going to put the housings on, I'm going to run the wires, get everything kind of laid out, and if I have a slow day, maybe get through some more soldering tomorrow. And I'm going to leave an extra 6 or 8 inches of wire. We're running fat bob tanks, which will cover up most of everything in between and around the dash on this. So it makes sense to leave more than try and make it short perfect. So that's what I'm gonna be messing around with on the remainder of this. Like I said, I don't know what's gonna make the cut in terms of videos. We're ready to start this. I actually thought about hooking up the little shorty stubby gas bottle. Carbs cleaned out, accelerator pump's working, battery's charged and good. Literally I can hook that fuel line up to the carb and fire this up. We're a ways off. I know this bike runs, so I know for you guys it's new on the channel, but I had this bike running. It fired up fine. It sounded fine for the 30 seconds that I ran it before. If there's more issues, we're gonna find that out together, but it started, ran, no problem. We had a dead battery, went through the carb already, re-cleaned that up again recently from sitting. Everything is working like it should. I have no doubts that this bike will fire up when we get ready to do that. But at this juncture, I'd rather just lay everything else out and then we can worry about the running problems. I've heard it run. There's no weird banging, clanging around, internal metal noises or anything like that. The Vose switch is the other issue we're gonna run into. Not an issue, but thank you guys for the feedback on that. We will figure out how I'm going to address that. I got to chase the wires and make sure that it actually has signal wires. I'm most likely going to end up just capping it on the SNS for the initial startup. And I still haven't gone over to my buddy's shop to get the breather valves for the heads. So by this weekend, my goal is to have this running and riding. Even with the dead front tire. I have a brand new tire at the shop, but I want to get it putzing around the block and see how well it runs before we dive into the front wheel. So that's kind of it for now. We'll be back out here tomorrow or the day after, or 3 days after. At some point this weekend, I'll finalize all the switches and controls. But right now it's the boring soldering wires and getting everything laid out part. So I'm not bringing you guys along for that. Maybe on this, these will fit through the hole in the wide glide, so this might come down and I'll do a short little bit, but I'm not doing a full walkthrough on wiring. It is what it is. Okay, this is not at all exciting, but I figure I'm already out here working. So I have the brake lever hooked up here now on the master. So this is working, and I just tried clicking the key on to test it. Duh. We don't have any wires hooked up. So this is all kind of laid out. I gotta trim this extended reach Allen key down because it is not the happiest. But we got the clutch lever tightened down. Wires are run through the switch, and if you saw the last video when we were messing around with this, all I did was take a carbide bit and basically slot this so we have enough room to pull the wires through the bars. And then these are just going to kind of follow down through the bars. Lots of zip ties are going to be happening on this one. And then the end of the wires are going to drop down through the triple tree, which is fine. So we're going to lay this out, but I'm going to leave enough room where I can route this as tight or as clean as I want on the actual bars. Just make you guys a little bit taller. Hopefully you guys can kind of see what I'm thinking on this one. So this will just kind of get here and we'll follow the curve up here. So zip tie, and then we'll run through the back of the risers. I don't want these up front, but down here, around, and then we get a little bit, you know, it's not the cleanest in the world Typically, if you're running internal wires, you're gonna fish them all the way down and then come out right here through the riser mounts, and then the wires go down and over. We're gonna do the same thing minus the internal routing. So I need to leave myself enough meat on here, which is honestly most of this black loom area. But we'll get this kind of laid out here. It'll go something like this, and then I'll run it back and then loop it back forward, and then we can tap back in. And sorry, moving you guys around a little bit, but you can't see what I'm looking at. You get a little bit of wiring showing here, but we'll go down to the bottom of the bars, down, over, and realistically, this would plug into this connector. So we got 5 inches, 6 inches or so of wire left on the stock connector. It gets a little goofy because there's an aftermarket headlight that's kind of tapped into this already, but well worth the 20 bucks. I've done plenty of these where I've just extended and used black wires all the way through. This was $20 harness. They all color match exactly to the factory stuff. So jump on the Amazon or order an expensive, burly kit or whatever it may be. But we're going to tap this into here now. So this is the next part of the solder connections, and I'm going to do the same thing here on the headlights. I might actually depin these and then clip these back in, even though I hate depinning stuff. But we'll run this down, and I'm going to leave it long, so this will give me enough meat on the wire, or enough room on the wires to run this, and we'll keep everything tucked into the tank. And then where is this connector gonna sit? This is the front one, back one. Yellow. Front one. So we'll drop these back in real quick just so I know where the fixed end is gonna end up. Connect these pretty much right about there. So that'll be the length of bar run that we have. More is better, especially if I want to run this tighter along the bars. More wire you have, the tighter you can actually follow the curvature of the bars and kind of keep all that clean. If you do that too short, now you're trying to fish this around and over and make everything work. So this will pretty much get laid out just like that. I'm going to trim the excess and bag those, because the excess on here, if I cut this pretty much right here all the way across, that's a couple feet, well, like a foot and a half-ish. That's enough factory wires for me to do that on another set if I'm just extending them. Like on the Sporty. Should be pretty close in terms of colors. And honestly, I'm not running signals. I'm not running kill switch I'll keep, but we got an on-off toggle rocker switch, and then signals. So just having the amount of wire, color matched, color coded. This is a 95, that's a 92. Fairly certain they're running the same wires through the switch housings. If I'm wrong completely, let me know, but that should be pretty close. So we have enough to extend these for the Sporty, which is a whole different project that we're not getting into. It runs, drives, it's gonna stay the way it is for now, but I do have stainless bungs and 120 wall 1-inch bar material en route, or en route, if you will, because we're gonna make a custom set of bars for the Sporty. I can't find anything online that I like with the setup or what I'm kind of going for, so I'm gonna build my own. That'll be a way later summer project, but that's kind of where we're at. I just wanted to give you a quick little update. So basically I'll cut this after the sheathing. When I solder these, however you guys do it, entirely up to you, but when I cut these off, I don't cut all of them like this straight across. I'll try and do like a harder angle across these, because when you get into, if you're doing butt connectors or quick spade connectors or anything like that, if you put all of them at the same length of wire, you end up with a giant cluster of material, you know, huge. Same thing when I solder them. I'll usually stagger these when I cut them. So I'll pull them all tight, and we'll start down here, and I'll go here, 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 kind of increase the length and then make up the difference on the other side. But when you stagger them, you can kind of keep them small enough to fit through this sheathing. So if you notice, same thing, here's the factory stuff with the, I just taped the edge of this, but factory wiring runs down. All of my solder connections start here and go to about here. So somewhere in between there, but I don't overlap or stack them. I like having them staggered. It just makes everything compress a little bit more. All right, so I just yanked everything off. Excessive amounts of wire, but more is better than less in case of switching things around. So I did straight cut these, but this is not going to be the final. So when we go to do this, I will stagger the next couple inches on here, which is good. So these are all going in the bag, and I'll bring you back when all that's done. I'm not even doing a full heat shrink all the way around. I'm gonna heat shrink the solder connections, so those are individual wires, and then we're gonna tape the remainder because I'm making a complete harness now. So the only other thing I'm looking at, and maybe you guys can help me on this, brake light switch. It's just like the one on the Evo Sporty. Hopefully you guys can see this. Here's a little tab that goes into the switch housing. How much wiggle is there supposed to be on this switch? This is newer than anything I'm used to, but this is where it wants to be, where it will fully engage. Hopefully you guys can see that. Here is the switch. Should stay kind of there all the time. Pull the brake lever, it opens the switch, brake light goes on. This moves a lot. Like I got half an inch at least of movement up and down. So the issue I have when I tighten parts down is this will start out there, but if I pull this a couple times, it wants to walk up. Is that, I mean, if I take this completely off, I can see it better over here, but all the way down, helps if you bring you guys into what I'm looking at. All the way down, should that be moving that much? It's a ton of play. So I don't know exactly how that lays out. I know I got the brake pin in here. I know I can pop this clip off and then pull the lever and kind of go through this, but let me know, because I'm a ways out on this. I'm going to keep slapping things together for now, but I would like to fix that or replace that. Is that a replaceable part? It looks like it rides in between the brake lever here, so I don't know what the acceptable amount of play is really kind of what I'm getting at. I know what's wrong, and I know that's causing me a bunch of problems. We can fix it, what's normal on that? I tried looking on the Evo. I have next to no play on that, so I don't know if it's like the bushing that's worn out or the lever. Let me know if you're into the 90s Evo stuff or the switch housings. Shovelheads aren't set up this way, ironheads aren't set up this way, so new stuff. And you guys have been a treasure trove of information so far. So we'll be back tomorrow once all of this is done. Well, it's been a couple days, but I did manage to, one, pick up all of the carb cleaner, air cleaner, and choke plate stuff for the carb mount. Also got some intake manifold gaskets that we will be swapping out on here shortly. I think that'll be in the next video though, because I finished up the wiring on the switches. So there's two wires here for the headlight, the white and the yellow there, that I will have to tie into this here. I cut those ones because this was really long, and we'll tap those back in on this connector once I get this mounted. And this one on the other side, the left side switch is also, or the right side switch is all done. So, left side switch. My bad, that's the left. So we're gonna throw that back on the bars. And as for this little brake pin thing, fairly certain that's broken. Should not be pivoting that much. I'm not sure what I'm gonna do yet, but I don't really wanna fight that one right this second. The switches aren't that bad to yank back apart once we get all the wires laid out and finished. So let's try and get it back together, because right now I can't really do anything with it or test anything until we get the wiring hooked back up. Then we can start messing around. This might come on and off a bunch of times later on, trying to get that brake tab to stop moving. Not sure what we're doing on that yet. let me know in the comments if you know. I've looked it up. I know I can get the part. It's like $8 or something. But I really don't want to wait if it's something I can just kind of fix. So let's get these mounted. Well, I got sidetracked. I had this all hooked up and working. I thought it was just this like pin engagement thing that I still think needs to be addressed on the brake light switch, but I got this hooked up now and I've been testing it. I'll set you guys back here. If you notice, tail light, even with everything apart, no power. So the internal switch is not working. I had the test light out. We do have tail light, which tells me that I have power to the light. So quick little test. If you don't want to unpin it or rip it apart yet, if I bridge a jumper wire on the orange, which is hot, to the red. Come on. Is that brake light working? There you go. Just not pushing this in far enough. So that's basically me replicating this switch. On, off, on, off. Now on the Evos, as far as my understanding on how this works, you have a button here. When this is open, the brake light should be on. This button right here. So when we were messing around on the Sporty before over there, I had that issue with the brake light stuck on. This should be stuck on right now, and it is not, which tells me that this switch is not functioning properly. I could pull back some wiring here and make sure it's not nicked or shorting, but I have full power orange down to here. Red gets power when this switch is open, which it is, so it's really the red wire that I'm not getting signal from. I don't know if I'm going to dive into the harness part in here maybe, or just keep kind of jamming. I got a ton of work to do on this side, but we do have the bars hooked up, or the wires hooked up, run down the bars. So this will all get zip tied on here. Same thing on the other side. All the other switches are working. Starter button's working. Everything else is good except for that brake light switch. So I think I'm just going to order up a new one of those and go from there, and then kind of come back to this when we can. But that'll kind of wrap this one up. We got wires run on one side-ish. I don't know where to put you guys. We got all the switches and wiring stuff pretty much laid out and done. It's just a matter of final assembly and hardware. And I just haven't decided if I want to actually do all of that while that switch is not functioning. So maybe I'll take that side a little bit farther apart. Clutch side, I still need to drill this, but I didn't grind out the housing to make room for the wires, but I did find a stock clutch side at the shop. So we'll hack this one up instead of the brand new chrome one. And then I'll take a look and try and figure out if I got levers and pins and all that other stuff. I should have all of it. Thought I brought a lever back too, but keep jamming on this. I don't know if I'm going to film anything on this, but it's basically going to duplicate this side. Carbide out a slot for the wires to run through in between this bracket, and then everything else will just kind of lay out nice and easy. This side's much easier to get back on. Not really a whole lot going on this side. It's the throttle and brake switch on that side. That happens to be broken. So that'll wrap this video up. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, all those fun things. I think we're going to be moving on to the intake manifold next. I don't know if that's going to be later today or not, but that's another video anyway. We'll see you on the next one.